Welcome to Wisdom from the Mountain, a podcast about intuition, spirituality, and following your path. I'm your host, Tara Alexandria. I'm a psychic medium, intuitive guide, and healer. I'm here to support you to live from your intuition and find true healing and authentic growth. Thank you for being here and for your willingness to live your best life, for yourself and for the world around you. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I have some amazing guests that I'm going to be interviewing over the next few weeks, and I'm so excited to bring forward the interview part of this podcast because that is what I found so important and so inspiring about this idea to even start a podcast. So hopefully I will have my first interview out to you guys by Tuesday, June 11th, I'm thinking. And I will have an episode this coming Tuesday as well, even though I am publishing this new moon kind of special episode. I will still be coming to you guys every single Tuesday. I just want to remind you all that my course, Follow Your Alignment, is open for registration right now. This course will take you so deeply into connecting to your own voice and connecting to your own mission and purpose and path at this time. My books will be opening for individual readings on June 6th, and they will be closing on June 15th, which incidentally is my birthday. I'm opening up my books for this small window of time so that those of you that have been requesting readings can go ahead and get in before my books open again closer to the end of the summer. This is also just to give any of you a space who do not feel that my course, Follow Your Alignment, is right for you, so that I can still get some one-on-one work in with you. Thank you all so much again for being here, and enjoy the episode. This new moon in Gemini is all about balance. It's all about a balance between thinking and feeling, between being really passionate and also really cool-headed. So having a warm heart but a cool head was something that really kept coming up for me, that kept resurfacing as a message for us to really take in and understand. It can be really hard to balance those two things because the things that we feel and the things that we think are interrelated. They go back and forth. Sometimes we can fall into low feelings and then that triggers negative thoughts, or we can go in the opposite direction. We can fall into negative thoughts and that influences our feelings. So the correlation there is direct. If you work with affirmations, if you've ever done any work with Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, or worked with like mindset in general, you know that by starting to change your thoughts, by starting to change your mindset to more positive or reframed ways of thinking, you actually affect your emotions. Of course, there are a lot of other things that go with emotions because emotions they come from the chemicals in our body. So diet is really important. Our genetic predisposition for certain things is really important to think about. But really understanding the harmony between the head and the heart is what we're looking at this month, what we are able to play with in the energy, to utilize, to sink into and learn from. I always use tarot cards when I'm doing readings. Well, not always, but for sessions like these, I do. And I want to say that you don't need to know tarot to listen to this. You will understand everything anyway. You will benefit from the message anyway. The message is all intuitive or psychic, if you prefer that word. The cards are just visual imagery that help to stimulate the messages. I think that everyone should own a tarot deck or an oracle deck because it helps you to talk to yourself, to figure out what you're thinking and feeling, which is exactly what we're talking about today. But for me, in my own practice, it helps me to anchor myself in the messages that are coming through from Spirit for me to share with all of you. The first cards that are coming forward for this work today are cards that really pertain to being our own authority. I'm currently looking at the Justice card in the tarot and also the Ace of Swords. But I'm going to start out talking about the Justice card and the things that I'm feeling here. So there's this idea coming up this month of being our own authority in every realm of our lives, but most especially in our relationships, in our communications with authority figures, with family members, with our partners. In our closest relationships, we need to be very aware, very careful in the sense that we are truly taking care of the relationship, of the level of communication that we're experiencing, of the connections that we are building, that we're nurturing, that we are creating with other people, and of the way that we stand in our power with other individuals. Because those relationships are all so close or so intense, what I mean is that the relationships I mentioned, which are with authority figures, with our partner, with our family members, those relationships are very intense because we have to be different people for each of them, because we are often seen by them in our various life phases and in our different personalities. We all wear or hold a different personality for all of our relationships across the board. We're slightly different with every single friend that we have, with every single person that we talk to on this planet, because of the different dynamics of how we function together. And so the spotlight is really pulled onto these relationships this month. And the challenges of this is simply to call ourselves into balance with those people, with ourselves, but with the other person as a contributing member within that relationship. The Justice card always asks us to consider what is on our heart, always, because justice is about the right action, the morals and values that we live our life through, and it's also about the feelings that we have in connection with those things. Often we make our choices, especially in relationships, based on how we can rock the boat the least, how we can be as giving or as allowing of other people as we can. Or we live out our relationships in a way that says, I want to stay the way that I am and not be challenged to shift or move or change in any direction at all. And we do this because it's really easy to get locked into a pattern of behavior in a relationship. Especially if we feel comfortable in that relationship, if we feel like that relationship is always going to be there, if it's something that we grew up with, or if it's something that we kind of take for granted, we can really let ourselves sink into typical behaviors that we feel we should be allowed to have And those behaviors aren't always behaviors we actually want or that we actually benefit from exhibiting or engaging in. And justice just asks us to review those things, to say, what weight is on your heart in this space? What weight is on your heart because of this person or that person? What are you not able to express that your heart feels because you don't want to ask too much, or because you don't want to make someone else feel uncomfortable, or because you don't want to feel uncomfortable expressing yourself? Justice will always remind you that the way that you're feeling is simply because there's an action that needs to be taken, because there are words that need to be spoken, or because there is a situation that needs to be rectified. The new moon in Gemini is igniting this energy within us to where we're going to start receiving these messages, these downloads, I always call them, of understanding, where we suddenly realize that, okay, I actually, I really needed to talk to my partner about the way that they spoke to me the other day. It just wasn't right. And it's really getting in my way of feeling normal again, or of feeling seen in the relationship or heard. Justice will point out where things feel stuck for you. Justice will point out where your own behaviors need to shift and change so that you can be more fully present for others, more fully aware of them, more fully caretaking of their feelings in a really healthy way, in a way that's necessary for nourishing that relationship. The next card that I'm looking at is the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords here, just for all of you who love tarot, is showing up reversed. And the information that I'm feeling about this card is that we are really challenged to open our channel in a different way this month. The Ace of Swords reversed showing up here to me means that we might be learning a new way of communicating. For some of us, it might feel like speaking is hard right now, like communication is hard right now. It might feel like our feelings are divorced somehow from our thoughts or from our words, and that we have to do a lot of digging to reconnect them and bring them into this same flow, this same channel where we can pull the two together and see where they're united and where they have such disparate elements that they're coming from different places. And we need to find the unity in them. We need to find how we can use one or the other to really ground ourselves into our own personal messages this month. The new moon in Gemini is about thinking and feeling and the harmony between the two. If the way that you're expressing yourself right now is not bringing both of those forward in a really united way, with a really united front, that's where miscommunication can come in. That's where misunderstandings will kind of fill in the gap because that united front was not united. Whenever I get Ace of Swords, I find it to be a great time to sink into meditation. Meditation for me is what clears my channel. It makes me feel like I can decipher between my personal feelings and their correctness and my ego. it also helps me to get into a space where I can understand what's going on with other people, what their lives are like, what their challenges are like, and what their perspective is, not from a place of trying to see it. In meditation, everything simply comes together. Everything simply is sorted out, and we're able to come into a really clear mind. Having a clear mind at this time right now is so important, because that feeling of our thoughts being divorced from our emotions can create reactivity, where we react from our emotions from this state of not really being connected to what we're feeling, but just those feelings just rolling through the body, and then making statements or creating arguments or discussions that maybe we hadn't fully thought through and gotten to the other side with. At the moment of this podcast release, it's really important to get quiet, to put away things that aren't imperative, and to get really clear on yourself. Getting really quiet and doing something that is completely you, that reconnects you to yourself, is going to help you to hold and to gather the energy that you'll be pulled into in this next 28-day cycle. This next cycle is really ushering us into the second half of the year. And the second half of 2019 feels so different from the first half. It is really a fresh start for many of us. It's a really renewed energy. It's a fresh energy of that hanged man empress energy, for those of you that know and like the tarot and really understand the yearly energy that we're in. I can talk about that another time. And it's also a time when we're kind of closing the door on several things that were part of our personal growth, that were part of our physical world and the way we were living in it in the first half of the year. Getting ready to close doors is always a time of review. And if I haven't said it yet, there's so much revision showing up with this new moon. Revision, revision, revision. Reviewing our lives from time to time is so centering and so imperative to always returning to our soul, to returning to ourself. Because we can get so clouded by the outside world. There's always so much going on. There's always so much information coming in. And really giving ourselves the time and the space to review and to reconnect is empowering. It is so empowering. And it makes you feel, and it makes you very powerful as a co-creator on your path. It helps you to manifest, to create the life that you actually want, rather than simply falling into or going along with the same old routines and the same old habits and the same old states that justice is pointing out to us maybe aren't in our highest good anymore, maybe aren't in alignment with our highest power. The next two cards showing up here are coming up together, and it's the Ten of Pentacles reversed and the Hermit. The Hermit card showing up here is so interesting to me that it's showing up last in its spot in the reading, because as I said before, not the first, but the 2 days before the new moon, I always feel this incredible pull to get quieter, to go within. And the Hermit is all about that, getting quiet and going within. The Hermit listens to themselves. The Hermit follows their own light and walks their path by seeing through their own wisdom what is the next right choice for them, what is the next right step. And by really understanding that their life has led them to where they are today, and that their next steps are their own choice. The hermit also really teaches us a lot about healing. And I believe it is a very deep level of mental healing, but also spiritual healing. I feel that so many of us need a time in our life to get really quiet with ourselves over a really expansive period. For some people, that can be a year. For some people, it can be 5. Some people never have that kind of privilege to make a decision to be alone or to kind of have that space for themselves. But I feel that we can create that for ourselves regardless of our external circumstances. For me, all of you that have listened to my podcast so far will know this because I talked about it in episode 1. For me, the year that I did very, very deep meditation for an hour a day, every day, sometimes it was an hour plus, and it was really like a year and a half. That time period of my life was extremely, extremely busy. And I was I had a lot of responsibilities. But that hour every single day was my hermit time. It was the time when I was off by myself somewhere, even though physically I was surrounded by people. I lived in a space with a bunch of roommates, and I went to school, and I had just so many obligations outside of that as well. But that was my time to start listening to that voice inside, to start listening and understanding the wisdom that the hermit has. But it was also the time when my mind and my spirit began to feel more whole. Whole to me is healed. And I felt this connection begin to come forward of my actual mind. I felt that I was a more whole person than I'd ever been. And this came from that quiet space that I was able to take for myself. If you like art, if you like to cook, if you like to sew, I would really encourage you during this month to engage in those activities, to take that time back for yourself where you can be in that flow. Every time we're being creative, we have the opportunity to enter a flow state. And when we're in a flow state, there's so much that happens with our brain that I won't get into here, but that for me connects us to our intuition, connects us to our inner understanding, and helps us to make the right choices for ourselves, to really see ourselves fully, to see ourselves in a fresh way, and to really review those things that are on our heart that I talked about at the beginning with the Justice card, asking us to weigh our actions and our words and our relationships against the feelings in our heart, and to make sure that they are balanced, to make sure that they are right, to make sure that they're just. And so I suppose it isn't so strange that the hermit appeared at the end of the reading, because the hermit reminds you to be your own authority. The hermit reminds you to take your own time and space so that you can settle into your own authority and into hearing your own voice, but not just hearing it, following it. The hermit guides himself along with the light of his own lantern, no one else's. The hermit finds his own way to healing, and the hermit knows that hearing their own inner wisdom is more important than anything else. That really getting clear on their own inner wisdom is what keeps them moving forward in a grounded and steady way on their path. So, just to tie up this energy and our understanding of it, I'll say that it is of the utmost importance for the rest of this month that you are gentle with yourself, that you are diplomatic in the way that you work with, speak with, communicate with others, especially those that are the most intense relationships in your life, and that you allow yourself to bring together your thinking and your feelings in a way that feels right to you, in a way that makes you feel connected, but also without making a judgment about why they're separated or why they maybe seem to be living in different realms through this month. If you can simply give yourself the groundedness of daily checking in through meditation, journaling, just kind of making lists. This is what I'm thinking, but this is what I'm feeling. Or returning to an affirmation practice if you've ever had one of those, to just bring yourself into that centered space and be okay with those kind of disparate elements that are showing up. And letting yourself let go of what it is that is no longer serving you in the physical world, whether it's a role that you've been playing this year, whether it's a job that you've taken on, whether it's maybe a way that you were feeling that you refuse to feel anymore. It is your right to make your own choices around letting those things go, but your soul might be asking you, might be leading you toward it and saying, hey, it's time to let this go. And you can come into your own authority and say, you know, you're right. I'm going to go ahead and take the action to rectify this situation, to either clear out this old relationship or clear up these feelings in this partnership. I'm going to really become my own authority in a way that makes me feel safe in my communications with my family or with authority figures, or with those that I feel are authority figures and that maybe make me feel at certain times that I can't listen to myself and hear that little voice. All right. It has been such a pleasure bringing through these channeled messages for you. I hope that it served you. I hope that it gives you something to really sink into and lean against this month through any of the energies that you experience during this moon cycle. And I'll just tell you to let yourself be changed with the energy of this next month. Let yourself be woken up. Let yourself be moved toward your own understanding of inner harmony, of inner connection, and of just hearing your own voice, your own wisdom. Remember that I have a brand new mini meditation course up on my website. I would love for you to grab it and to give me some feedback. Anything that needs changed, I am willing to change. I want to be really clear and straightforward about how you can settle into your own little meditation practice or big meditation practice if that's right for you, because it has been such a powerful force in my life. So you can go ahead and grab that at www.taraalexandria.com, which of course will be in the show notes below this episode.